More than 3,000 years ago, one of the greatest pharaohs was subjected to a fierce assault, an assault that took place 20 years later. It was not an attempt to assassinate a person. Rather, it was to erase his memory from history. A statue was smashed with hammers to be erased from history. It is Queen Hatshepsut, the woman who ruled Pharaonic Egypt. The queen whose story must be told in a Hollywood movie, including the incredible events, tragedies and struggles that affected her even after her death. In 1927, the American archaeologist, Hilbert Winklock, discovered a brutal incident dating back to the era of the pharaohs that no one had known about before. That was when a secret crypt was discovered at the Deir al-Bahari site in al-Basr. That basement led him and his team to a cemetery that was almost completely destroyed. Pharaonic statues were deliberately broken and desecrated by unknown persons. Who did this to them, and why? This question that Hilbert and his companions are looking for a logical explanation for. Until after finding the remains of Queen Hatshepsut, the vision began to become clear little by little, that queen that he did not know about until the 18th century. She rose to the throne of Pharaonic Egypt after the death of her husband. When we see the story of her rise, we find that she was nothing but a guardian to rule the country instead of her husband's son, Thutmose III, who was at a young age when his father the king died, and thus the queen is temporarily until he reaches the age of majority and takes over the affairs. Until Hatshepsut, according to archaeologists, was a woman thirsty for power, and for this she was able, with the help of her advisor, Sanmut, to monopolize power to herself. After her death in 1458 BC, King Thutmose III took revenge on her by destroying her monuments. By delving deeper into the personality of Queen Hatshepsut, scholars have analyzed her as her thirst for power since before her husband's death. Going back, Hatshepsut is the daughter of King Thutmose I, and it was said that he promised her to take power after him, but this was not confirmed. At that time, the rule of the king was transferred from the king to his son, from the queen, without the rest of his brothers. In the event that there are no males, he will pass to one of his sons from his other wives. As for Thutmose I, he had two daughters from his wife, but both of them died and Thutmose II was found king at that time. His daughter Hatshepsut was 12 years old and she was married to her half-brother Thutmose II, and since they did not have children he criticized the ruling from Thutmose II to Thutmose III from a wife other than Hatshepsut. And due to his young age, Hatshepsut became the legitimate ruler of Egypt until he reached the age of majority. There are two views about Hatshepsut's ambition and her seizure of power. Some say that she installed herself as a pharaoh and portrayed herself as a pharaoh, a man with a false beard, in order to satisfy her ambition to seize power. While others say that she did not seize power for personal desires, but to protect the country from entering into a political crisis. How is that? Specialists in Egyptian history say, in Egypt, that the pharaoh of Egypt was like the god of the ancient Egyptians. He should not be king for a certain period, and then the rule returns to the general people. Therefore, she considered that the abandonment of Hatshepsut, the seat of power for the third Thutmose, would be a stab in the belief of the people that has been the ultimate planted in their minds through generations. And therefore she decided to remain in power until her death, and then take Thutmose III ruled Egypt. Perhaps the second theory supports the intelligent mind of Hatshepsut and her tangible achievements. Since taking office, she changed her name, which translates in Arabic to Ruhui, the god of the sun, referring to the Egyptian people in that she is able to communicate with the gods like the rest of the pharaohs. And she provided concrete proofs of the mentality, as she was able to achieve many unprecedented achievements of the predecessors of the kings of the pharaohs. For example, she ordered the construction of a 100-foot obelisk that is present today in the Karnak temple, whose huge stones were dragged from the Nile Valley, consisting of 850 rowers, in addition to its brilliant success in raising the wealth of Egypt remarkably in its age. She built a system of roads all over the country, and built the temple of Hatshepsut located in Deir al-Bahari, which is one of the wonders of design in the world, in addition to drawings that refer to mysterious trade trips undertaken by the queen that bring unspeakable wealth to the country. She was also bringing new, unknown types of animals to Egypt, and she was the first ruler to import trees from other countries and plant them. It is also said that she was the first to invent eyeliner by grinding charred resin and using resin as makeup. Despite all these achievements, the question remains why Thutmose III hated her so much. Perhaps the destruction of Hatshepsut's antiquities was just an act of revenge, after he injured another queen who stole his throne. There are some who say that he feared that the rule of Egypt would pass to more women, especially after the success that Hatshepsut achieved during her reign. So it is better to destroy the queen's belongings so that she will not be a source of inspiration for his daughters and daughters after him by trying to follow the example of their grandmother the queen and monopolizing power for themselves.